Commander Jake Murphy stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, staring at the dead planet below. The ship moved slowly through space around the cold world that had once been home to millions of beings. Now it was just rock and dust, silent for 3,000 years. "Sir, we're picking up some strange readings from the planet's core," said Lieutenant Amy Carter from her station. She was young, maybe 25, with bright eyes that always seemed excited about new discoveries. "It looks like there's something big down there." Jake nodded and walked over to look at her screen. The Liberty was an exploration ship, not very big but fast and well-equipped for finding old ruins and lost technology. They had been sent here by the Galactic Council to study what remained of the Vorthak civilization. The Vorthak were one of the oldest races anyone knew about, but they had vanished without a trace long ago. "How big?" Jake asked. He was a calm man in his 40s with gray starting to show in his brown hair. He had been exploring space for over 20 years, and he had learned to be careful about strange readings. "Really big, sir. Maybe the size of a city," Amy replied. "And it's giving off energy. Whatever it is, it's still working after all this time." Dr. Helen Brooks looked up from her research station. She was the team's expert on alien cultures and had studied the Vorthak for most of her career. "That's impossible," she said. "The Vorthak disappeared 3,000 years ago. Nothing could still be running after that long." "Well, something is," said Chief Engineer Sam Johnson from the back of the bridge. He was a big man with rough hands who could fix anything that broke on the ship. "And if it's Vorthak technology, it might be worth a lot to the Council." Jake thought about this. Humanity had joined the Galactic Council 200 years ago, but they were still considered newcomers. The other races were older, smarter, and had better technology. Humans were good at adapting and working hard, but they weren't special. If they could bring back some advanced Vorthak technology, it might help Earth's standing in the galaxy. "All right," Jake said. "Let's go down and take a look. But we go carefully. Amy, I want you and Helen to lead the dig. Sam, make sure all our equipment is working perfectly, and everyone stays in contact at all times." The team spent the next 6 hours getting ready. They loaded their shuttle with digging equipment, sensors, and enough supplies for several days. The planet's surface was cold and dry, with a thin atmosphere that required them to wear breathing masks. They landed near where the readings were strongest and began to dig. The soil was loose and came away easily, as if it hadn't been disturbed in a very long time. As they dug deeper, they found pieces of metal and crystal that looked like parts of some huge machine. "This is incredible," Helen said, holding up a piece of green crystal that glowed softly in the dim light. "The craftsmanship is amazing. Look at how perfectly smooth this is." Amy was using a scanner to map what lay beneath them. "Sir, I think we've found the top of whatever this is. It's huge and it goes down at least 100 feet. They worked all day and into the night, setting up lights and carefully removing dirt and rocks. Finally, they uncovered what looked like a doorway made of black metal with strange symbols carved into it." "Can you read any of this?" Jake asked Helen. She studied the symbols carefully. "Some of it. This symbol means memory, or records. And this one means guardians or protectors. I think this might be some kind of archive or library." Sam found a way to open the door, and they stepped inside. The space beyond was enormous, filled with tall crystal columns that stretched up into darkness. Each crystal glowed with a soft blue light, and Jake could hear a low humming sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "It's beautiful," Amy whispered. "And it's still working. After 3,000 years, it's still working." They walked deeper into the archive, their footsteps echoing in the vast space. The crystals seemed to respond to their presence, glowing brighter as they approached. Finally, they reached what looked like a control panel in the center of the room. "I think this is how we access the information," Helen said, "but I'm not sure how to activate it safely." Sam examined the panel. "The power systems look stable. I think it's safe to try." Jake made the decision. "Do it." Sam pressed what looked like the main control and the entire archive came to life. The crystals blazed with light, and images began to appear in the air above them. At first, the images were unclear. But then they began to focus. What they saw made them all step back in shock. The images showed space battles on a scale none of them had ever imagined. Huge ships, some as big as cities, fought across star systems. Planets burned and entire fleets were destroyed in moments. But what shocked them most was that many of the ships were clearly human in design. "That's impossible," Jake said quietly. "Humans didn't have space travel 3,000 years ago. We barely had written language." But the images kept coming. They saw human ships with names written in English. Terra's Wrath, Sol's Vengeance, Earth's Thunder. The ships were massive and powerful, using weapons that could destroy planets and technology that made current human ships look like toys. "Look at this," Amy said, pointing to one image. It showed a human fleet commander giving orders from the bridge of a ship. The man looked just like any human they might see today, but he was commanding a force that could conquer star systems. The archive showed more and more records. Humans weren't just part of these ancient battles. They were leading them. Other alien races that Jake recognized from the Galactic Council were shown bowing to human commanders. Entire civilizations paid tribute to something called the Terran Star Empire. "We were here before," Helen said in amazement. "Humans were already in space when these other races were still primitive. We had an empire that covered half the galaxy, but what happened to it?" Jake asked. "Where did it all go?" The archive began showing newer records, and the story became darker. The human empire began fighting itself. Human fleets attacked other human fleets. Planets that had been part of the empire were destroyed by human weapons. The galaxy burned as humanity tore itself apart. The final images showed the last human commanders making a terrible decision. Rather than let their civil war destroy everything, they chose to end their empire. They used some kind of advanced technology to hide their ships and make their own people forget who they had been. "They erased themselves," Helen said quietly. "They gave up everything to stop the war." The archive went quiet, but one last image appeared. It was a star map showing locations across the galaxy. At each location was a symbol that Helen recognized. "Guardian posts," she said. "There are more archives like this one, dozens of them." Jake looked at his team. They had come here looking for ancient alien technology, but instead they had found the truth about humanity's forgotten past. They had been the greatest power in the galaxy once, and they had given it all up to save everyone else. "What do we do now?" Amy asked. Jake thought about the orders that had brought them here. The Galactic Council expected them to return with whatever they found and turn it over to be studied. But this was different. This was about humanity's true history. "We follow the map," he said finally. "We find the other archives. We learn the whole truth." "The Council won't like that," Sam warned. "We're supposed to report back in 3 days. Then we don't tell them what we found. Not yet." Jake looked at the star map again. "Our people deserve to know who they really are. And maybe, just maybe, the galaxy needs the Guardians to return." The USS Liberty had been traveling for 3 days following the ancient star map. Jake Murphy sat in his command chair, watching the stars move past on the main screen. His team had been quiet since leaving the Vorthak homeworld. Everyone was thinking about what they had discovered. "Sir, we're approaching the coordinates," said Lieutenant Amy Carter. "But I'm not seeing anything on the scanners." Jake looked at the empty space ahead of them. "According to the map, there should be something here. Sam, run a deep scan. Look for anything that might be hidden." Chief Engineer Sam Johnson worked at his station for several minutes. "Got something," he said finally. "There's a huge asteroid field about 2 million kilometers ahead, but the asteroids are arranged in a perfect pattern. That's not natural." "Take us in slowly," Jake ordered, "and keep the shields up." As they moved into the asteroid field, Jake could see that Sam was right. The rocks were too perfectly placed to be natural. They formed a sphere around something in the center like they were protecting it. "Sir, I'm getting energy readings from the center of the field," Amy reported. "Something big is in there." They flew carefully through the asteroids until they reached the center. What they found made everyone on the bridge stop talking. Floating in the middle of the asteroid field was a massive space station. It was clearly human in design, but it was huge. bigger than any space station Jake had ever seen. "How big is that thing?" he asked. "About 50 kilometers long and 20 kilometers wide," Amy said in amazement. "It's like a small city in space." Dr. Helen Brooks was studying the station's design. "The architecture is human, but it's more advanced than anything we have now. Look at those weapon systems, and those docking bays could hold hundreds of ships." "Is it active?" Jake asked. Sam checked his instruments. "Power levels are very low, but yes, it's still running. Whatever built this made it to last." Jake made his decision. "Take us to the main docking bay, but be ready to run if anything goes wrong." The Liberty moved slowly toward the station. As they got closer, lights began to turn on along the station's hull. The docking bay doors opened automatically as if the station was welcoming them home. "That's not scary at all," Sam muttered. They docked with the station and put on their breathing equipment. The station might still have air, but Jake wasn't taking any chances. The docking bay was enormous, with spaces for ships much larger than the Liberty. As they stepped onto the station, lights came on in the corridors ahead of them. The station was definitely responding to their presence. "Follow me," Jake said, "but stay together." They walked through corridors that could have held 100 people side by side. The walls were covered with symbols that Helen recognized as ancient human writing. Finally, they reached what looked like a command center. Soon as they entered the room, a voice spoke to them. "Welcome home," the voice said in perfect English. "I have been waiting for you." Jake drew his weapon, but there was no one to point it at. The voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Who are you?" Jake demanded. "I am Atlas," the voice replied. "Automated Tactical Logistics and Strategic System. I was created to maintain this facility and wait for humanity's return." A holographic figure appeared in front of them. It looked like a man in his 50s, wearing what appeared to be an old human military uniform. "You've been waiting for 8,000 years?" Helen asked. 8,412 years, to be exact," Atlas replied. "Since the last human commanders gave the order to hide and forget." "Why?" Jake asked. "Why did they do it?" Atlas gestured, and the room filled with holographic images. They showed the same civil war that the archive had revealed, but in much more detail. Human fleets destroying each other, planets burning, billions dying. "The Terran Star Empire controlled a third of the galaxy," Atlas explained. "We were the strongest power that had ever existed. But we turned that power against ourselves. The Civil War lasted for 200 years and nearly destroyed not just humanity, but every other species in the galaxy." The images showed the final battle, where the last human fleets faced each other over Earth itself. Both sides had weapons that could destroy the planet. The surviving commanders realized that humanity was too dangerous to remain as we were, Atlas continued. So they made a choice. They used advanced technology to suppress human genetic memories and scatter our people across the galaxy. They hoped that someday, when humanity had learned to control itself, we would return. "And this station?" Jake asked. "This is Forge Station Alpha," Atlas said. "One of 12 such facilities hidden throughout the galaxy. I have been maintaining the ships and waiting for the day when humanity would need them again." "Ships?" Amy asked. Atlas smiled. "Would you like to see them?" He led them to an observation deck that looked out over the inside of the station. Jake's team gasped at what they saw. The station was hollow in the center, and floating inside were dozens of massive ships. Each one was the size of a city, covered in weapons and armor that made current human warships look like toys. "The Terran Starfleet," Atlas said proudly. "Maintained and ready for service, waiting for their crews to return." "We can't operate ships like that," Jake said. "We don't have the knowledge or the training." "Actually, you do," Atlas replied. "The genetic suppression is beginning to fail. Stress and discovery are breaking down the barriers. You are already beginning to remember." As if Atlas had triggered something, Jake suddenly felt a strange sensation. Images flashed through his mind. Star charts he had never seen, battle tactics he had never learned, ship designs he had never studied, but somehow he understood all of it. "What's happening to me?" he asked. "You are remembering who you really are," Atlas said. You are not just Jake Murphy, exploration ship commander. You are the descendant of Admiral Jake Murphy of the 3rd Terran Battle Fleet, hero of the Centauri campaign. Amy gasped and grabbed her head. I can see it too. Ship designs, weapon systems, things I've never learned but somehow know. Sam was staring at his hands. I know how to repair systems I've never seen before. How is that possible? Your genetic memories are encoded in your DNA, Atlas explained. Every human carries the knowledge of their ancestors. The suppression. Technology just locked it away. Suddenly, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Atlas looked concerned. We have visitors, he announced. 6 ships, Zephyrian design, approaching the asteroid field. Jake felt a strange calm come over him. Part of his mind that had never existed before began analyzing the situation like a military strategist. How long until they reach us? He asked. 15 minutes, Atlas replied. Are they armed? Yes, battlecruiser class. They appear to be investigating the energy signatures from the awakening station. Jake looked at his team. Amy was studying holographic displays that showed ship positions and tactical data. Sam was examining weapon systems readouts. Helen was reading through historical records at incredible speed. They were all changing, becoming something more than they had been. Can we fight them? Jake asked. Atlas smiled. Admiral, you have at your disposal the most advanced fleet in galactic history. The question is not whether you can fight them. The question is whether you want to reveal humanity's return to the galaxy. Jake thought about the Galactic Council, about how they treated humanity as a junior species. He thought about the other races who had no idea that their peaceful human neighbors had once been the most feared warriors in the galaxy. They fired on us first? Jake asked, as the Zephyrian ships opened fire on the station's outer defenses. Yes, Admiral. Unprovoked attack on a human facility. Jake felt the last of his old self slip away as ancient memories and instincts took control. He was no longer just an exploration ship commander. He was a human military leader, descended from the greatest naval tradition in galactic history. Then, we defend ourselves, he said. Atlas, activate the fleet. It's time for humanity to come home. The lights throughout the station blazed to life as the sleeping giants began to wake up. 8,000 years of waiting was finally over. The Terran Star Fleet was returning to service, and the galaxy was about to remember why humanity had once been called the Starbreakers. Outside the station, the Zephyrian ships continued their attack, unaware that they had just triggered the return of the galaxy's most legendary military force. The massive ships inside Forge Station Alpha began to move. Jake Murphy watched from the command center as lights came on throughout the sleeping fleet. Each ship was enormous, longer than most space stations, and covered with weapons that looked like they could crack planets in half. Admiral, the flagship is ready for transfer, Atlas announced. The Starfall is waiting for your command. Jake felt strange hearing himself called Admiral, but somehow it felt right. The genetic memories flowing through his mind showed him exactly what to do. He had commanded fleets before, thousands of years ago, through his ancestors. How long do we have? He asked. The Zephyrian ships will break through the outer defenses in 8 minutes, Atlas replied. But Admiral, once you board the Starfall, there will be no going back. The galaxy will know that humanity has returned. Jake looked at his crew. Amy. Carter was working at a weapons console like she had been born to it. Her fingers moved across controls she had never seen before, but her genetic memories guided her. Sam Johnson was studying engine systems that were far beyond anything he had learned in school, yet he understood them perfectly. Dr. Helen Brooks was reading through military files that detailed battles fought across the galaxy when humanity ruled the stars. Jake, she said quietly, once we do this, everything changes. Humanity will never be the same. We're already not the same, Jake replied. The question is, do we hide what we are, or do we stand up and protect ourselves? Another explosion shook the station as the Zephyrian ships pushed deeper into the asteroid field. Time to decide, Admiral, Atlas said. Jake made his choice. Transfer us to the Starfall, and wake up the rest of the fleet. The next few minutes were a blur. Jake and his crew were transported to the bridge of the massive flagship. The Starfall was incredible. with a bridge that could hold 50 people and screens that showed everything happening for light years around them. As Jake sat in the captain's chair, something amazing happened. The ship's systems connected directly to his mind. He could feel the engines, the weapons, the shields, everything. It was like the ship had become part of his body. "All systems are online, Admiral," came a voice from the ship's computer. "Fleet, command is ready." Through the ship's sensors, Jake could see the other vessels in the fleet powering up. There were 37 ships in total, each one more powerful than anything the current Galactic Council had ever built. "Sir, the Zephyrian ships are demanding our surrender," Amy reported from the communications station. Jake smiled. The old Jake Murphy might have been worried about 6 enemy ships, but Admiral Jake Murphy knew that 6 ships were nothing compared to what he now commanded. "Open a channel," he ordered. The face of a Zephyrian commander appeared on the main screen. The alien looked like a tall, thin human with blue skin and no hair. His expression was angry. "Unknown human vessel, you are in violation of Council law. Surrender immediately, or we will destroy you." Jake stood up from his chair. Behind him, the bridge crew moved with perfect precision, each person knowing exactly what to do even though they had never been on this ship before. "I am Admiral Jake Murphy of the Terran Starfleet," he said calmly. "You have attacked a human installation without provocation. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The Zephyrian commander laughed. "Terran Starfleet? You humans and your imagination. There is no such thing. You have 6 small ships against our battle cruisers. Surrender now." "6 ships?" Jake asked. He gestured to Amy, who activated the external cameras. The Zephyrian commander's expression changed as he saw what was really around him. The entire human fleet had moved out of the station and was now surrounding the 6 alien ships. 37 massive warships, each one dwarfing the Zephyrian vessels. "This is impossible," the alien commander whispered. "This is humanity," Jake replied. "Last chance to withdraw." The Zephyrian ships opened fire. What happened next shocked everyone, including Jake's own crew. The Zephyrian weapons struck the human ships, but the energy beams simply disappeared. The human shields didn't just stop the attacks, they absorbed them completely. "Return fire," Jake ordered. The human fleet fired back, but not with the massive weapons that could destroy planets. Instead, they used precisely targeted beams that disabled the Zephyrian ships without destroying them. In less than 30 seconds, all 6 enemy vessels were floating helplessly in space. "Zephyrian commander, this is your final warning," Jake said. "Return to your fleet and tell them that humanity is no longer hiding. We are back and we will defend ourselves." The alien commander's face was pale with fear. This is not possible. Humans are not warriors. You are explorers, farmers, traders." "We are whatever we need to be," Jake replied, "and right now we need to be protectors." He cut the communication and turned to his crew. "Atlas, repair. Their ship's enough to get them home. But make sure they understand what they saw here." "Yes, Admiral. The message will be clear." As the Zephyrian ships limped away, Jake felt the weight of what had just happened. Word would spread quickly through the Galactic Council. Humanity had revealed itself and nothing would ever be the same. "Sir," Amy said from her station, "I'm getting reports from across human space. Other humans are having the same awakening we did. They're remembering things, understanding technology they've never seen before." Jake nodded. He had expected this. The genetic suppression was breaking down everywhere, triggered by the stress of the situation and the activation of the ancient technology. "What are your orders, Admiral?" asked Captain Tony Rodriguez, who now commanded one of the other ships in the fleet. Jake had never met the man before today, but somehow he knew Tony was a good officer, descended from a long line of stellar commanders. "We protect human colonies," Jake said. "The Council will see what happened here as a threat. They'll try to strike back before we can organize fully." His prediction proved correct. Within hours, reports came in of Council fleets moving toward human colonies throughout the galaxy. The various alien races were preparing for war against humanity, but they had no idea what they were really facing. Jake's fleet split up, with each ship heading to protect different human worlds. The Starfall itself headed for the colony of Nu, Boston, where Council forces were already gathering. When Jake arrived, he found 12 Council ships preparing to attack the human settlement. The ships belonged to different alien races. Some were Zephyrian, others were from the crystalline ethereal species, and a few belonged to the hive-minded Nexari. The Council commander sent a message demanding that the humans surrender all advanced technology and submit to Council authority. Jake's response was simple. No. The battle that followed was not really a battle at all. It was a demonstration. The Starfall moved through the Council fleet like a shark through minnows. The human ship was faster, stronger, and smarter than anything the aliens had. Jake's tactical knowledge, passed down through genetic memory from ancestors who had fought across the galaxy, let him predict every move the enemy would make. But the most amazing thing was that Jake didn't destroy the Council ships. Instead, he disabled them one by one, using weapons that could bend space itself to trap the enemy vessels without harming their crews. Within an hour, the entire Council fleet was floating helplessly in space while the human colony remained completely safe. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy as other awakened human commanders protected their people. Each victory was swift and decisive, but also merciful. The humans could have destroyed their enemies completely, but they chose not to. The galaxy was starting to remember why the ancient humans had been called the Starbreakers. They broke the power of anyone who threatened the innocent, but they did it with honor. As Jake looked out at the disabled Council ships, he realized that this was just the beginning. Humanity had announced its return, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Jake Murphy stood on the bridge of the Starfall as reports came in from across the galaxy. Human fleets were winning battles everywhere, but something felt wrong. The victories were too easy, and the Council's responses didn't make sense. "Sir, we're getting a message from Commander Beth Williams," Amy Carter reported. "She's asking to speak with you directly." Jake frowned. Beth Williams commanded one of the other awakened human fleets, but her recent messages had been strange. She seemed to think that humanity should give up the ancient technology and return to Council space. "Put her through," Jake ordered. Beth's face appeared on the main screen. She was about Jake's age, with short black hair and intense green eyes. Like Jake, she had awakened to her genetic memories, but something was different about her. "Jake, we need to talk," she said. "This has gone too far. We're scaring the entire galaxy." "They attacked us first," Jake replied. "We're just defending ourselves." "Are we? Or are we becoming the same monsters our ancestors were?" Beth's voice was sharp. "Do you know how many ships we've disabled? How many worlds are afraid of us? We're turning into the very thing that nearly destroyed the galaxy 8,000 years ago." Jake felt a chill. Beth was right about one thing: the galaxy was afraid. But they had good reason to be afraid. Humanity had been attacked, and they had responded with overwhelming force. "What do you suggest?" Jake asked. "We surrender the technology to the Council," Beth said. "We go back to being explorers and farmers. We forget about the Starfleet and live peacefully with the other races." "And let them decide our fate?" Jake shook his head. "They already tried to destroy our colonies. If we give up our defenses now, what's to stop them from trying again?" The conversation was interrupted by alarms throughout the ship. Atlas appeared on the bridge as a hologram, his face grim. "Admiral, we have a problem," the AI announced. "Long range. Sensors are detecting massive energy signatures at the edge of the galaxy. Ships are appearing out of nowhere." "Council reinforcements?" Jake asked. "No, sir. These are not Council ships. The energy patterns match records from our oldest archives. These are Devourer vessels." Dr. Helen Brooks looked up from her research station, her face pale. "Devourers. But they're just a legend." "No," Atlas said. "They are very real. They are the ancient enemy that the Terran Star Empire was created to fight. They consume entire civilizations by turning them against themselves." Jake's genetic memories suddenly flooded with new information. The Devourers were older than any known species, and they fed on the destruction of organized societies. They would arrive at a world, use their advanced mental powers to start civil wars, then harvest the energy released by the conflict. How many ships? Jake asked. Over 300, Atlas replied. And more are arriving every hour. On the main screen, long-range images showed the Devourer fleet. The ships were massive and dark, covered with strange growths that looked almost alive. Just seeing them made Jake feel sick. They're not just coming for us, Helen said, reading through the ancient records. They're coming for the entire galaxy, every species, every world. Jake opened a communication channel to all human fleets. All ships, this is Admiral Murphy. We have a new threat. Ancient enemy vessels are entering our galaxy. All conflicts with Council forces are to cease immediately. He then opened a channel to the Council's main fleet. Council Command, this is Admiral Jake Murphy of the Terran Starfleet. We need to talk. The response came from Admiral Korath of the Zephyrian High Command. Human, you're in no position to make demands. Our combined fleets are moving to end your rebellion. Admiral Korath, look at your long-range sensors, Jake said calmly. Look at the edge of the galaxy and tell me what you see. There was a long pause. When Korath spoke again, his voice was different. What are those ships? They are called Devourers, Jake explained. They are the reason the Terran Star Empire existed. They are the enemy that made humanity into warriors, and they have returned to finish what they started 8,000 years ago. Jake quickly explained what Atlas had told him about the Devourers, how they turned civilizations against themselves, how they fed on conflict and destruction, how they had been the real cause of humanity's ancient civil war. The human empire didn't fall because we were naturally violent, Jake said. It fell because the Devourers manipulated us into fighting each other. And now they're doing the same thing to all of us. As if to prove Jake's point, reports began coming in from across the galaxy. The Devourer ships were not attacking directly. Instead, they were sending out some kind of signal that made different species more aggressive toward each other. Council races that had been allies for centuries were suddenly fighting over territory and resources. They're doing it again, Helen said, watching the reports. They're turning the galaxy against itself, just like they did to humanity. Admiral Korath's voice came over the communication channel. Our scientists confirm the mental influence. The signal is affecting our crews, making them more hostile. What do you propose we do? Jake looked at his crew, then at the image of Beth Williams still displayed on a side screen. She looked confused and angry, clearly affected by the Devourer influence. We do what humanity was created to do, Jake said. We protect the galaxy. All human fleets form up on my position. Council forces, if you want to survive this. You'll follow our lead. Over the next few hours, something amazing happened. Despite centuries of being treated as junior members of galactic civilization, humanity took command of the defense. The awakened human admirals coordinated fleets from dozens of different species, using tactical knowledge that had been passed down through genetic memory for 8,000 years. Jake found himself in command of the largest space fleet in galactic history. Human ships formed the core of the defense, but they were supported by vessels from every Council species. Even Beth Williams brought her fleet to join the fight, her doubts overcome by the threat to all life in the galaxy. The battle against the Devourer fleet was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. The enemy ships were fast and powerful, with weapons that could tear holes in space itself. But humanity had been preparing for this fight for 8,000 years. The human ships used technology that bent reality, creating shields that existed in multiple dimensions and weapons that could strike targets through folded space. More importantly, the human commanders knew how to fight an enemy that fed on conflict and chaos. All ships, listen carefully, Jake broadcast to the combined fleet. The Devourers get stronger when we fight with anger and hatred. We must fight with purpose and protection. Think of the worlds we're defending, not the enemy we're destroying. The strategy worked. As the fleet fought with discipline instead of rage, the Devourer ships began to weaken. Their dark energy weapons became less effective, and their ability to influence minds decreased. The final battle took place over Earth itself, where the largest group of Devourer ships had gathered. Jake led the combined fleet in a desperate fight to protect humanity's homeworld. In the end, It was not superior firepower that won the day, but superior tactics and unity. The human admirals coordinated attacks from hundreds of ships, striking at the Devourer's weak points while protecting the more vulnerable Council vessels. When the last Devourer ship was destroyed, the galaxy fell silent. Then, slowly, communications began coming in from worlds across the galaxy. Every species was thanking humanity for saving them. Admiral Korath was the first to speak officially. Admiral Murphy, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally apologize for our actions against humanity. We did not understand what you truly were. Jake smiled. We're what we've always been, Admiral. We're guardians, we're protectors, and we're here to make sure this never happens again. The war was over, but Jake knew this was really just the beginning. Humanity had taken its place as the galaxy's protectors once again. The Starbreakers had returned, not as conquerors, but as the guardians they were always meant to be. As Jake looked out at the stars, he could see the lights of celebration on thousands of worlds. The galaxy was safe, and humanity was finally home.